Hey guys, quick message before we jump into the video. I know, normally I usually do my Yu-Gi-Oh videos on Friday. Today was scheduled to be my God of High School review for episodes 4, 5, and 6. But, because of some stuff with my regular job, it messed up my schedule a little bit. I will be back with that review tomorrow. So this video got moved up a day. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this Yu-Gi-Oh video. And I will see you next week with our regularly scheduled programming. Later. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are here with another Yu-Gi-Oh video this week, and this time I want to talk about the new archetype coming out in Ancient Guardians. It just got announced this week, and I don't know, man, there's just something about it that really catches my interest. So I want to go through the cards and give you guys my thoughts on it. So let's do it. So this archetype is called Abyss, but it's like Hiss, like A-B-H-Y-S-S, because they are a snake archetype, they're a reptile archetype, and their card art is absolutely gorgeous, and it is based on kind of like an Egyptian style. Looks really, really cool, but let's check them out. Up first, we've got Null, Dreg of the Abyss. He is a light reptile effect monster, level 4, 0 attack, 0 defense. You can only use this card's name's first and second effect once per turn. First effect, you could send this card from your hand to the graveyard, send one dark reptile monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then if you control no monsters, or you control an abyss monster, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. You cannot special summon monsters while this card is special summoned by this effect in the monster zone, except for reptiles. So it does lock you into reptiles while it's on the field. Once it leaves the field, you can go back to summoning whatever you want, which I think is pretty cool. It's a really, really easy starter. You can pitch it, get half the deck, because half the deck is light, half the deck is dark, and then just start going off. Pretty solid card. Next, we have Nile, Dreg of the Abyss. This is a dark reptile effect monster, level 4, 0 attack, 2000 defense. You can only use this card's name first and second effect once per turn. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to send one light reptile monster from your deck to the graveyard. So this is kind of the opposite of the other one. Its second effect is, if this card is normal summoned or special summoned, you can add one abyss, spell, or trap card from your deck to your hand. Nice little setup card. It does let you get back into the light one, which means you can pitch him, get the light one, special summon the light one, and just keep on going off. Not bad, not bad. These are probably the weaker of the monster cards, but let's talk about them anyway. Philigi, Haze of the Abyss. Light reptile effect monster, level 4, 1800 attack, 1400 defense. Not bad stats for level 4. You can only use this card's effects one in first and second effects once per turn each. If this card is sent from your field to the graveyard, or special summon from your graveyard, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls and one monster in their graveyard with equal or higher attack. Special summon the target in the opponent's graveyard to their field, and if you do, send the target they control to the graveyard. Now, that effect is weird. It basically lets you choose one of your opponent's monsters, summon a monster with equal to or higher attack points to send that monster to the graveyard. The only good things about this is that it doesn't destroy. It does target, because you have to target a monster to get another target in the graveyard, but it doesn't destroy, so it does dodge that. So any monster that can't be destroyed can still be hit with this. That's not terrible, but it does have some applications with some of the later cards. If this card is in your graveyard, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard to add this card back to your hand. So it's really easy to get it back. You can discard any card. It doesn't have to be a reptile. But it also does give you a discard outlet to get some of the other reptiles in the graveyard. Then we have its dark counterpart, Zoa, Haze of the Abyss. This is a dark reptile effect monster, level 4, 1500 attack, 1700 defense. You can only use this card's name's effects, first and second effect, once per turn. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard or special summon from the graveyard, you can have your opponent draw one card. If you do, add one abyss monster from your deck to your hand except Zoa. Then each player sends one card from their hand to the graveyard. This is interesting. Now, The downside is you're letting your opponent draw a card, cycle through a card, draw and discard. That's the part of it that's very meh. But it lets you search any of your monsters and then put a monster into the graveyard, or keep them in your hand if you need to keep them in your hand. So it can actually get you started on combos, but you are giving your opponent that chance to draw and discard. And then second effect, if this card's in your graveyard, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, add this card to your hand. They were very careful about this archetype because a lot of the effects say send instead of discard. So that's interesting. Now we get to some of the big boys. This is Curse, Dawn of the Abyss. Light Reptile effects, level 8, 400 attack. That's where I got tripped up. 2400 defense. You can only use this card's in the first and second effect once per turn each. If this card is in your graveyard, you contribute one monster, special summon this card, then your opponent can special summon one monster from their graveyard to their field, but its effects are negated. So basically, you can use that light level 4, pitch a dart. If this guy's in your graveyard, just summon him out. Special summon him out. But your opponent does get a monster. That's the downside. Now, the second effect is this card is special summoned. You can target one level 4 or lower Abyss monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. That lets you get any of your level 4 lowers, and all these cards have effects when they're special summoned. Oh, that's a neat trick I just realized. So if you summon this guy out, your opponent gets a monster. You summon the other level 4 light. Now you get to pick a different monster for your opponent and get rid of the monster they actually wanted to have. So that's a neat little interaction. But its dark counterpart, I'm going to butcher this. Alith, Dusk of the Abyss. Dark Reptile, level 8, 2000 attack, 800 defense. That's pretty bad stats for level 8. You can only use this card's first and second effect once per turn. If this card's in your graveyard, you contribute one monster, special summon this card, then your opponent can add one monster from their graveyard to their hand. If this card is special summoned, you can target 2 of your banished monsters, including at least 1 reptile monster, and return it to the graveyard. This one's actually better than the light one. What's cool about this is first turn, if you have the level 4 light, you could ditch the level 4 light, put this into the graveyard, special summon the level 4 light out, tribute the level 4 light for this. Your opponent gets nothing because it's the first turn, and then you can put the level 4 light back into the graveyard. Not bad. And that's just off one card. That still leaves you 4 other cards to make moves with. Alright. Third level 8. This is Aaron, King of the Abyss. Light Reptile effect, level 8, 2500 attack, 2800 defense. You can only use this card's first, second, and third effects once per turn. If this card is in your graveyard, you contribute 2 monsters to special summon this card. If your opponent adds a card to the hand, except during the draw phase, you can send 1 random card from their hand to the graveyard. If a monster your opponent controls is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add 1 light or dark reptile monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except for Aaron. Now, tributing 2 monsters sucks, but this deck can easily spit out 2 monsters. If your opponent adds a card to their hand, so any of their search effects, you can make them discard. Unfortunately, that affects only once per turn, which kind of blows. But you can actually forcibly trigger it because of the one that lets your opponent add a card from their graveyard to their hand. So that's actually pretty cool. You could summon the dark monster, put 2 of your banished monsters back, force your opponent to get a card, and then randomly rip another card out of their hand. So it kind of keeps them from plussing too hard off of what they're supposed to be the downside of these cards. Alright. Amnesia. I hope I said that right. Queen of the Abyss. Dark Reptile, level 8, 2700 attack, 2100 defense. You can only use its 3 effects once per turn. If this card's in your graveyard, you contribute 2 monsters to special summon it. If a monster is special summoned from your opponent's graveyard, you can send 1 card they control to the graveyard. If a monster is sent from your opponent's hand or deck to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 light or dark reptile monster from your graveyard, except Amnesia. This one is bonkers. Attributing 2 monsters kind of sucks, but being able to send any card your opponent controls to the graveyard, non-target, non-destruction, by your opponent special summoning a card from their graveyard, you can force that to happen with the card we read up above, that lets your opponent, that makes your opponent summon a monster from the graveyard. The other level 8, the light, the tribute, the 1 tribute. Yeah, your opponent summons a monster from the graveyard, but its effects are negated. Then you could send any card that you want that they have to the graveyard, non-targeting, non-destruction, and then its third effect, if your opponent sends, if a monster sent from your opponent's hand or deck to the graveyard, you can special summon any light or dark, regardless of the level. You can actually make that happen too with the guy we just read up above, where you randomly get to discard, force your opponent to discard a card. So they have a lot of interesting interactions. I could see where some people wouldn't like them, but it seems like a really, really cool archetype, and the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. Last monster we got is Ogido Abyss. Ogido Abyss. The deity of the Abyss. He's a light reptile effect monster, level 10, 3100 attack, 2200 defense. You can only use its first and second effect once per turn. Excuse me. If this card's in your graveyard, you contribute 3 monsters to special summon it. Obviously, you're probably never going to do that. You probably just summon it with Amnesia's effect. Once, while face up on the field, you can send all monsters on the field to the graveyard, except for monsters that were special summoned from the graveyard. That's cool, because this whole deck is revolved around the graveyard. And if your opponent doesn't have any special summon monsters, you just wipe their board for absolutely nothing. It doesn't even require you to do anything but just stand there and look pretty. And you could cheat this out so many ways. So those are the monsters. Like I said, very interesting, very, very, very weird interactions they can have with each other. You can force a lot of effects that are supposed to be in response to your opponent doing stuff. You can force them on your turn by doing stuff that they would think would benefit them, and then you just kind of screw them a little bit. But we do have a field spell. This is Depths of the Abyss. You can only use this card's name first and second effect once per turn each. If a face-up reptile monster you control is destroyed by battle, or an opponent's card effect, you can target one card your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard. This does target, and your cards have to be destroyed by a battle or card effect. I mean, there are a lot of ways to get around destruction, but it is nice to have that little safety net if they do decide to try and destroy your stuff. They know they're going to end up losing your card. If this card is in your field zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can send cards from the top of your opponent's deck to the graveyard equal to the number of reptile monsters with different names in your graveyard. This effect pisses me off. This effect was almost good, but because it's not, it's really, really bad. Letting your opponent fill up their graveyard can be potentially problematic for a lot of decks. But if this card did not have to be triggered by your opponent's card effect, it would be bonkers. Because you could fill your graveyard up with... How many monsters did we get out of here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 monsters. Not to mention the other reptiles in the game. Imagine getting 10 reptiles into the grave and then just popping this card yourself and forcing your opponent to mill 10. You could make the first actual Yu-Gi-Oh! Mill deck, but it has to be triggered by your opponent. Which in a lot of cases your opponent might want to do that, but it's not, because of that restriction, it's not good enough to actually warrant the strategy. But on to the Continuous Trap card. This is Emptiness of the Abyss. Continuous Trap. You can only use this card's name's first effect once per turn. During your main phase, you contribute 1 reptile monster, then target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your field, but send it to the graveyard during the end phase. Hey, in some cases you can special summon one of your reptiles, contribute it, special summon it back, and keep going. It's continuous, so you can do it every turn. It's a trap card, so it's spell speed 2, so you can do it in response to your opponent. Like, say your opponent wants to go get something out of their graveyard, you can be like, cool, response, tribute, give me. If this face-up card in your spell and trap card zone is sent to the graveyard, send all face-up non-reptile monsters you control to the graveyard. The downside of it, if it gets destroyed, any monsters you control that aren't reptiles go. I mean, your whole deck's going to be reptiles, which your opponent's is. So if you steal any of their monsters, they have potential to try and screw you. Last card we got for the archetype as of now is Invasion of the Abyss. Normal trap card, you can only activate 1 card with this card's name per turn. First effect, special summon 2 Abyss tokens. They are Reptile, Dark, level 2s, 0 attack, 0 defense. But if you have 8 or more Abyss monsters with different names in your graveyard, you can apply the second effect instead. Special summon 2 Reptile monsters with different names from your graveyard. We have 9 Abyss monsters right now, so that's not really that hard. Especially since a lot of them just get the other guys. My problem with this card is I think this card should have been a spell card. If this was a spell card, it would actually be decent. Either make 2 Abyss tokens, which you're going to tribute anyway, or special summon 2 Reptile monsters with different names from the graveyard. I do like that this doesn't have any kind of restriction on level. So you can literally just pull the level 10 dude right out of the graveyard, pull the level 8s out of the graveyard, which will get you a 3rd dude. It's not terrible, but if this had been a spell card, this would have been an automatic 3 of. But that's the archetype as of right now. People are already talking about a bunch of things you can mix it with. Some chaos energy because of all the lights and darks. Snake Rain to get 4 dudes in the graveyard, potentially 5 depending on what you discard. I just see a lot of interesting interactions with the way they can set off their defensive mechanics as an offense. Null is absolutely stupid as a starter, and the fact that Nile lets you get Null, it's like you have 6 starters, not to mention anything else you might throw in the deck. Yeah, so I see some potential here. If you guys have seen anything with this that you think I should check out, let me know. I might actually make this deck because I really like the artwork. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous, absolutely up my alley. But I love trying to make weird ass strategies like that work. Definitely my style. I will be looking forward to this coming onto Nexus because I definitely want to try it. But anything else you guys have heard, let me know in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drop a like if you did. Subscribe if you're new. We try and do Yu-Gi-Oh content every Friday. You guys can also check me out on social media. Those links will also be down below. You can follow me on Twitter. Any updates about the channel. If you want to hit me up and talk about some Yu-Gi-Oh. Or you guys can check me out on Twitch. I stream usually all weekend long. And I'd love for you guys to come stop by. That is it for me. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I've made mistakes, but mistakes make you strong. Let's break it down for a minute. I want the crown, I'm gon' get it. You hear me loud, man, I'm winning. Yeah, Charlie Sheen will be grinning.